Hi, my name is Ariel Dix. I'm doing a case analysis on the movie Junie and Ben, and my assessment and treatment plan will be on June. Or sorry, it's got Benny in June. So my case analysis will be on June. Um, so in the movie, there are some hints that June is mentally ill. She's not specifically diagnosed in the movie, so it doesn't tell you exactly what mental illness that she has. So you kind of have to watch the movie, write down her symptoms and some of the behaviors that she's having, and kind of piece together what her diagnosis may be. So after I watched the movie, I went ahead and came to the conclusion that June is mentally ill with a mental disorder called schizophrenia. Now, schizophrenia is characterized by hearing, seeing, feeling, or feeling things that are not there. Most often, people with schizophrenia hear voices. Um, it, it is apparent that June also hears voices. There's a point in the movie where her brother says that if she talks to herself, it's because she hears voices, so don't answer back. So that's one indication, and that some evidence that June hears voices. Um, I want to go ahead and point out that I believe June is also she's delusional, which also falls under the schizophrenia spectrum. So with delusions, the person basically believes things that are not true, and it doesn't matter how someone proves them wrong, they're still going to believe that thing, and it's pretty consistent. It doesn't Their story doesn't change. So there's not really a lot of evidence of that, with June actually specifying that she has this belief or that belief, but there were some indicators to me that June was probably delusional. So the first indicator was whenever June left the house, she wore a helmet. So a lot of times people who have delusions, who are schizophrenic, they believe that people can control them through sound waves or waves in the atmosphere. They believe aliens are trying to communicate with them. So the movie doesn't actually specify why June feels she has to wear the helmet, but I did notice that she wears the helmet whenever she leaves the house. Um, the other thing was there's a scene in the movie where June is actually she's directing traffic. She's wearing a scuba mask, and she has a ping pong paddle with her. So in June's head, she has the authority to direct traffic, even though she really doesn't. And when police officers come and try to redirect her, she becomes upset because June believes the delusion, even though everyone else has already proved her wrong, that she's actually not an officer of law who can direct traffic. Um, June is I would say she functions pretty well for having a schizophrenia disorder. She is very intelligent. She's able to think for herself. She knows her rights and her responsibilities. She can cook for herself, but because of the voices and the delusions, there are times that June doesn't pay attention to what she's doing, and she walks away from the stove. Or there's a scene in the movie where she was playing with like a piece of cloth or a Kleenex in front of a fan, and she had a candle lit, and then she just let it go, and the paper caught on fire. Which, if her brother wasn't there, the house could have caught on fire. So there's a lot of indicators of why June actually does need help. So um, the number one thing is her brother hires a housekeeper. The housekeeper is responsible for cleaning the house, but the housekeeper is also responsible for the caretaking of June while her brother is at work. And in the beginning of the movie, the housekeeper actually quits because she can't deal with the negative behaviors and the delusions that June is constantly having. So that kind of leaves Benny, June's brother, in a bind. Um, I'm going to go ahead and come up with a treatment plan based on behavioral cognitive theory, which is part of the systems theory. So it is a systemic treatment plan because it involves not just June, but other people in June's life. Um, so schizophrenia disorder is traditionally treated with medication. So as a marriage and family therapist, I'm not going to be prescribing medication. June would have a psychiatrist. And so I want to focus on the things that I can help June with, which is some of the symptoms that she is having that is not treatable with medication. So the first goal on this treatment plan for June, and the diagnosis again is schizophrenia disorder with delusions. Um, the first goal is for June to identify her environmental stressors and the the anxiety that she's having, and to learn how to cope with that. So learning coping skills. Um, Sorry, I can't read my notes, which is on the computer, and record this video at the same time. So I'm trying to remember exactly everything that I typed up. So the objectives to meet that goal would be I would want to have 1 week sessions with June and her brother because the relationship is very stressed. Um, Benny is in denial over the stress that the caretaking of June is actually putting on him, which in turn causes tension in the relationship between him and June. He at times forgets how intelligent June is and that she doesn't have an intellectual disability, which in the beginning I was wondering if she was just mentally ill or if she had a developmental disorder just because of the way her brother was treating her. So the first objective would be for Benny and June to educate themselves on exactly what schizophrenia disorder is and delusional disorder and what that looks like, because it just seems like they're really not educated on it, um, and therefore not able to educate those who are in their immediate natural support group, like friends and family, people who are helping them. Um, so they would need to know what the signs and symptoms are, and how they need to cope with that. So for June, I would want her an objective for her. Objective number 2 would be for June to be able to identify when she is experiencing anxiety or stress before she engages in those negative behaviors. So that would be like the instance on the bus. I noticed that she was trying to cope. She was trying to cope with the voices that she was hearing. She was having an environmental stressor. She was not used to being out on her own. Um, she never used public transit before. Um, Also, she had just entered a relationship that was very stressful. So I would want June to be able to identify, hey, I'm feeling anxiety. Let me use my coping skills. So the coping skills I would want June to work on is within a 90-day period, I would want June to go ahead and be able to identify her environmental stressors or things that bring anxiety to her, which can cause agitation and cause her to engage in negative behaviors. Um, and the coping skills I want her to work on is deep breathing. So taking 10 deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, and then reevaluating the situation. So if she's hearing voices, what it would look like would be she's taking 10 deep breaths, and then she's telling herself, which she can use positive self-talk in this case, along with deep breathing, and tell herself, no, I'm not going to listen to those voices. Those are not real. She can do the same thing with her delusions. If she's experiencing a delusion, she needs to use a coping skill, so deep breathing, counting backwards from 30, reevaluate the situation to know whether she's having a delusion or experiencing something that is actually reality, and then using a coping skill to bring herself back to center so that she can finish whatever activity she's engaged in.